attracting the right people and keeping your vision in focus every day. This is the Brian Covey Show.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of the Brian Covey Show. So today I am fired up because Ben Newman, who most of you that listen to our show probably will know, you've seen him, or you've had an indirect impact. The teams he's worked with, not only from Alabama, but the NFL, Major League Baseball, all the way over into golf. And he's got all of these things that I think are unique in our business. And for all of my financial folks, he spent some time in your shoes as well. And so he'll have that perspective. Not only is he a speaker, he's an author, which we'll talk about his book some. But one of those guys I've followed, and I look for people that not only talk about doing things, but they actually do them. And we live in a culture that a lot of people talk about. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm beast mode. I'm awesome. I do this. And I look for people that are real. Like, are you putting in the work and are you showing up? And so today is going to be about how we can help you create habits and areas in your life that you want to improve. We're going to help you go from where you are to a better version of yourself. We're going to try to do that all within next 30, 45 minutes. So we're going to have some fun. Ben, welcome, my friend.
Brian, thank you so much for the opportunity. I couldn't be any more excited. You know, knowing that this is live makes it even a more unique experience. So we're kind of all together going through this conversation. And I love what you just said. You know, there's so many individuals that say how great they want to be, but our action is what really tells the most significant story in terms of what we can do with our time here that we have in the world. And I'll tell you, it is a crazy world right now. And there's a lot of stories that you can listen to, but you also have the choice to silence it and take action and have an impact if that's what you choose for yourself. So I'm excited to be with you. We've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah. And you know what? You've had an impact on me. And I think that's the beauty of today, of all of us. We have choices of who we allow into our lives. And I'm going to break down this concept you've talked about recently about attacking the process. And that's one I've had to digest some, right? Because it's like, what do you mean by attack the process? And at first it didn't really land. And over time I listened to you and I watched it. So I'd love to start there because I think that's fundamentally different of what you talk about. And people could really attack the process in their life to create a better result versus wishing and hoping it's going to get better.
Well, you know, I think a lot of it comes from, we oftentimes hear people will say, you know, trust the process, embrace the process. Well, you know, you can't just trust it. You can't just embrace it. You better attack it. And really what I mean by that is we all know, everybody listening, you could, if Brian and I could ask you, what makes a great day for you? What are the things that when you do them every day, they give you great confidence, they give you energy, they give you excitement. And at the end of that day, you can look in the mirror and say, I won today because I did the things that I know I need to do to be great in my life, personally, professionally, and in how I serve others. So I call that attacking the process. So if we all know what those things are, then the real question becomes, Brian, why the hell do we choose to not do them so often? And that's really where our team and I love, whether it's in sports or our work in business, is really helping people identify what is that process. And then let's identify what it's going to take to attack it every day, because just trusting it is not going to be enough.
So I love that you say that, because I came up in a time in corporate America and places, and probably similar to you, and it was trust the process. And I started like pulling back yours and attack the process. And I started to find areas in my life, which is so cool, because then as you become aware, you go, hold on, I'm not attacking it. Like, I'm going through the motions. Yes, I'm working out today, or yes, I'm showing up to that conference call or that meeting with someone. But to attack it, to go into offense, I love what you say about that. Do you think that's something you took from sports? Because I know we both have that kind of sports background. Is that more of a sports piece you brought into business?
So, I mean, what a lot of people don't realize or they forget, and you alluded to it in the introduction, so I appreciate it. I was a financial advisor. So I started back in 2004. I was actually a paper broker fresh out of college. So I was like Steve Carell out of The Office. So I did that in Chicago for a few years and loved it, excelled at it. But it was time for me to came home to St. Louis, started as a financial advisor. And I was an advisor for 10 years. really started this business in conjunction with being an advisor, but that's really where it started. There was an old managing partner in Chicago. His name was Al Granum, and he actually studied 1,500 financial advisors on what it takes every single day to be successful. And that's just kind of what I referred to it as. I was more of a believer in the process and understanding what you need to do to be successful rather than holding on too tightly to the results that we can't control. Yeah. So you learn from mentors. You see people like an Al Granum. He's the expert. What do I know? Even to this day, I still feel like I'm scratching the surface. I've got 2 coaches. I read books every day. I'm trying to figure it out. But I think for all of us, you can look and say, okay, what is the process? And then back to those words, you can't trust it. You have to attack it. And to me, when I think of attacking the process, and you learn where an Al Granum says, hey, to be successful as a financial advisor, here are the things you should do. Well, I then have a choice. Let me start doing them. And in the areas where maybe I'm falling short or not doing enough, you can't just go, maybe it'll work out over time. Too many people in the world doing that today, and that's why people struggle, as opposed to, I'm falling short, let me go attack it. Let me go say, why am I falling short? And then I'm going to go attack it. It's the same thing with my work with players in the NFL or Alabama or Kansas State. If those players say, I just missed the play, it's okay, I'll give it my best next time, you're going to continue to be disappointed, as opposed to, let me study the film. Why did it happen? Where did I miss my assignment? How can I attack this so that the next time you make a big play in the game rather than missing another opportunity?
Dude, I love that. I mean, I think that is what you just see a lot of people going through that right now. And we have this almost this culture of the last couple of years that people have had their lives kind of thrown upside down. Some adapted, some did not adapt to it. I love how you said that, is like, it's almost like what they're tolerating, what they allow in their life. And this mediocrity starts to permeate. It becomes the norm. And in sports, I mean, you watch any great team, Alabama or in the NFL and all that. I played soccer, and you watch, you go, great teams don't tolerate that for long. It doesn't work. And I love how you said that. So what would be a tip, since you were a financial advisor? We have a lot of folks that, look, they're in insurance sales, mortgage sales, real estate sales, and all that. What would be one thing that you would share with them on where they could start today to attack their process? And they probably want to grow their income, right? I'm thinking about how they can be more successful. Are there any areas you would say, here's where we need to start, identify and then attack?
I only work with people who want to make less income, not more income. So I'm not. I don't like high performers. I don't like people looking for that edge. I prefer just the complacent people of the world.
No, we can't stand them.
What does Coach Saban always say? He says that, mediocre people don't like high performers, and high performers don't like mediocre people. And I know it's tough, and it sounds like, man, that's really strong. But like, you were built to be great. Yeah. You were built to perform at your highest possible level, not to protect yourself. So to answer your question and to give, hopefully the listeners the answer, let me actually start with a question for all the listeners. So the question would be, to start, what is, and whether you're mortgage, whether you're financial services, whether you are an athlete that are listening, whether it's you sell widgets, everybody can answer this for themselves. What is the single most important daily discipline or habit for you to be successful every day? And I know everybody can say, well, it's not just one thing. But if we had to pick one thing, so let's say dialing the phone. I actually call those POCs, points of contact, text message, email, phone call, direct message. There are no more excuses anymore for I ran out of people to call or I can't get a hold of this person. There's so many ways to do it. So stop the excuses. I call it a point of contact. So for one of you, you might be, hey, 20 points of contact a day. That's my most significant discipline. So for everybody, what is that single most, if you had to pick one discipline to know that's what I need to do to be my best every day, and for me to look in the mirror at the end of the day and be able to say, today I gave it my very best. Because if you can do that, that's winning. Stacking days like that, that's winning. And you can never ask any more of yourself than your very best. And nobody could ever ask more of you than your very best. So what's that single most important thing? Everybody, please write that down or put that in your proverbial mental shelf. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. And then I got a follow-up question.
I do. I love that as you go through, and as they're writing, the clarity and how simple you made that. Oftentimes we want it to be really complex and like super sophisticated. I love you just brought that down. I'm thinking of that right now for myself. Like, what is that one thing that drives the rest of the thing in the business and the success?
Brian, I'm a simple dude. I'm a 19 on my ACT, guy. So it's like I need concepts that are very, very simple. I was a hell of a student because I was organized. I was diligent. I would always get my work done. So I had a great GPA, 3.6, but I was a 19 on the ACT. So it's like, so for me, I need very, very simple. So that's the way that I like to coach. Okay, follow-up question. So everybody, you just wrote down, I didn't give you the answer. Brian didn't give you the answer. You just wrote down the single most important daily discipline for you to know you've given it your best. Now, here's the tough question for you. I want you to evaluate yourself. And this answer's for you. You don't need to send it to Brian. You don't need to hashtag @continued_fight and send it towards me. This is just for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, over the last 30 days, how would you rate yourself on what you just wrote down is the single most important daily discipline for you to be successful? That, Brian, is a very revealing answer that typically holds people back.
Yeah. You think people, the high performers, oftentimes don't give themselves credit for their wins and successes? Sometimes I find some of the people I choose to surround with, and when I've been performing at peak, I'm even harder on myself sometimes, right? It's like, I always think I can do more and better.
So that is what I call an unrequired mindset. And that's what the highest performers carry. So the highest performers, when you ask them a question like that, they're not going to be perfect, but I bet you their answers are going to be much higher than somebody who may have self-talk. They might be seduced by success, which means when things are going really well, I stop doing the things that cause me to be great. That's the seduction of success. That leads to complacency. You have to develop a standard. Hammer the standard every day. Standard over feelings. Don't allow your feelings to dictate how you show up. So the highest performers, once again, they're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I already told you I got 2 coaches, so I'm trying to figure it out. But they're more consistent in the daily disciplines that cause them to win. And then they do what's called the unrequired. And the unrequired is the little bit extra, Brian. This is how I know you live. It's the little bit extra. Other people can't see it. Other people won't do it. Other people don't want to talk about it. But the highest performers believe in doing what I call the unrequired. It's the little bit extra. So what that looks like, if you're a loan officer, right? You're part of an amazing high-producing mortgage team, okay? And you said 20 POCs a day, text message, email, phone call. That's when I know I'm my best. Your unrequired would be adding 10%. So go to 22. By doing that, what does that do? Psychologically, we know, and you have to understand, you cannot do the extra until you've done what, Brian?
The original.
The 20.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't even get to the unrequired. You can't experience what a Jerry Rice experience, what a Will Compton experience, all these balls behind me, Ray Lewis, Aeneas Williams, all these Hall of Famers. They experienced their highest levels because they understood, I'm going to do the extra, but to get to the extra, I have to do what's required of me. And people get frustrated. People get uncomfortable. You know, a lot of times people say, my goodness, this guy's a little too intense for me. I wore this sweatshirt so that the veins wouldn't pop out as much today. But, you know, it's one of those things like, I'm not being intense. Look, we're having a fun conversation, but I'm coming from a place of love because I know everybody watching, we joked earlier, you don't want to make less income. You don't want to have less impact. You want to have more. So I've always believed, let's study the highest performers. You know, let's find out what made them great. What makes them great? What are the things that they do? And then just choose to go do it with great consistency.
Man, there's a lot to unpack there because I think anybody that's listening, you need to rewind that back because there's little nuggets in there that just flowed off. And you're talking about a couple things stood out is the one, we don't get to experience that next level of greatness until we've done what was required and that standard that we set. I think for a lot of folks, they're just trying to get to that number, trying to get to that, whatever that commitment. And on the other side, I will say that's where the fun begins, right? Because you know you're doing more than you said you would. You know you're doing more than the majority of your competition. And so I love how you frame that up too, because for many people out there right now, they're thinking, where am I? And that's a good place for you to be questioning, I think, and going through, which kind of leads
Can I just say one thing really quick? Because you just nailed something. Where am I? And when you answer that question, be honest with yourself so that you can identify what gets you to the next level. That's attacking the process. Most people, and especially the way that the world is trying to protect everybody right now, is you ask yourself, where am I? You say, okay, I can see this is where I am, but then they don't do anything or change the behavior. So they answer the question, scale of 1 to 10, where are you over the last 30 days? I'm a 6. Okay, I just identified where I am. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it?
Yes.
Do you want to become a 9? Do you want to become a 10? And recognize you may not become a 9.5 overnight, but how about next week we get to a 7, and then the next week we get to an 8, and then the next week we get to a 9, and you realize you have more within you, and you can increase that average, and you will find yourself in a different place.
Man. So I want to piggyback on that, and I would love for you to expand on it, because you've seen this probably greater than anybody in business and in sports. And I think there's so many correlations, but a lot of people don't believe they can go from where they are, and they see this other level of success, and they think folks, just got there by luck or chance or all of this. And that belief, I mean, even in my own journey, I had to start really believing I can become that person on the other side. Yes, there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of stacking. And you talk about this piece where like our feelings get in the way, and I love how you attack that part, because there's a lot of days and a lot of times within the day, I have to check my feelings real quick. Is there anything that you found as you've coached these high performers that was like these shift moments where they went from maybe not believing they could be that next level success and that potential to come out and actually be something? Is there anything that triggers it?
So I've got a fun story to answer the question, and that's one of the things I love about live is you kind of ask these questions, then you're just going to hit me. I'm going to go to the library of stories, and it just what hits is what you're going to hear. And as I answer this, I want to help people also understand I've gotten really lucky. I've been really blessed to, have amazing relationships that have opened up some incredible doors. I have taken some courageous steps. Like at Alabama, I sent Coach Saban a street sign back in 2014 with a quote from one of his press conferences to get his attention. Had a street sign company make a street sign. It was sent to him. It said, the best street sweeper in the world lives right here. It came in a ginormous box because you can't send Nick Saban a letter. You got to send him a box that he goes, what the hell is in that box? And sure enough, he hung this sign for 3 years. I was hired in 2017. 3 years. Everybody get that? 3 years from when I sent the sign till I was hired. And we would send letters back and forth, and I would send him books, and we were building a relationship. But I didn't have an opportunity to get in front of that team until 2017. So think about that. And so you have to be aggressively patient, not forget your belief. But that then created an opportunity at Alabama. And one of my favorite stories to now answer your question, but I wanted to get that in because I think a lot of times people who are prospecting and building their businesses, they're not challenging themselves to get into better markets. So you have to be unique to capture people's attention. And so now when you have that opportunity, and that's just luck, right? He opened the box, he liked the sign, I got lucky. Well, I remember I went in, and at Alabama, you have to keep in mind, these are the highest performing athletes in the country. So how do you take these individuals who already believe in themselves, they already believe in the high work, and how do you get them to get to the next level? It's often simple adjustments in how they think. So this was probably my second year at Alabama, and Jerry Jeudy, who is now a wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, unbelievable guy, love Jerry. And I remember we're in the weight room, and I walk up to him, and Jerry's about to hit the squats. And I go up and I say, hey, Jerry, do you realize you're about to manufacture a touchdown in October with these squats right here? And it was summer workouts, Brian. Ooh. So what I was trying to do was helping him understand, Jerry, what you do today is going to get you all the results. Most people want to know, what are my results before I choose to do the work? High-level athletes, high-level performers in business, they understand they've got to do the work in order to get it. But you have to pull them all the way back to months before, the consistency of every little thing that you do. And that's all I was trying to do, was to take Jerry to say, man, this squat in June is manufacturing a touchdown in October. And his eyes lit up and he attacked the hell out of that set. And those are the types of things where when you see that hunger or that passion or that shift, you realize it's the subtle differences in how we think, which changes how you show up, and it changes the results. And that was the same year that Jerry set records, and Jerry was the Bolitnikoff Award winner. And I mean, it's just amazing what he accomplished, but he understood that I have to do the work every day in order to perform on the field.
How powerful is that, though? I mean, the way you connected that for all of us, and as you're listening, think about things that you're doing today. And I love how you say that, because especially the folks in sales, like the calls you make, the relationships you build, the 3 years it took you to actually build the relationship with Saban to go, yeah, I'm going to invite you in further now. Sure is worth it after the 3 years, though, right? Like that's where I think people.
Absolutely, it's worth the wait. And I think for everybody, you know, when we end our time together, we hit our finish line together today. What's the one little thing that you're actually going to change? You know, do you go evaluate your behavior? Do you really take serious that one question and realize it's probably a subtle difference in how you think? Maybe it's a subtle change in your environment. I recently read a book by Brad Lee, and it's called The Hard Way. Oh, yeah. And when Brad and I were out in Vegas, when we were filming live for his show, we had this great conversation. He told me The Hard Way is coming out. I'm like, man, I can't wait to get a copy. So I get a copy. I read it last month. So even though I believe in what I call a prize fighter day, which is part of our coaching methodology for over 15 years, prize fighter day breaks down the little decisions and choices that you make. Every time I read a book, you may not pull something out that becomes an immediate change, but his book, he said 5 revenue touches a day. I call them POCs. So now, as part of my environment, here it is. I have my 5 revenue touches, and they're right there. They're right in front of me in my office. They're on my phone, and it's a subtle change that I made. So I'm not sitting here going, look at where we get to work. Look at the things we get to do. I don't need to. God, I'm still doing it. Yeah. So I said, look, this subtle change in where I'm focusing every day has given me new energy, new momentum. And I could already argue, what do we need to change anything for, Brian? Things are going great, but we're never finished, and we can always be better.
Man, so I wrote something the other day, and you just made me think about it, because I talked about the books we read, the people we meet, the places we go, biggest influences as we go through it. But it means nothing unless I do something with it. Like I could meet you, or I could meet, like when we were out with Brad, I could meet these people, but if I don't make that change or switch, I'm the same Brian I was before that experience.
That's right.
Right? So I think about that as you wrote this book, and I'd love to unpack that, because we've got a lot of leaders. I myself on this leadership journey want to be the best leader, show up and all that. And I love for people that haven't read it, uncommon leadership. And that right out of the gate kind of, I'm curious, like uncommon. Tell me about that, how that came about, and what uncommon leadership is today.
Well, it came about because once COVID hit, I decided to really go crazy in terms of building momentum in the areas where I had been saying no because I was on the road so much. You know, you speak 70, 80 times a year. You're constantly on the road. You're with this team. You're with that team. I mean, it was always on the go. And here COVID comes in, and I had always done virtual. I do a lot of leadership training, and we always had done a lot of Zooms in the nature. But now you've gone all Zoom. So now I'm at home in the office, and you have to choose, like, the things that I was saying no to now need to become the things I say yes to, rather than sitting on the sidelines because the world tells me that everything's shutting down. No, I'm not going to listen to that noise. I'm going to attack some things where I've been saying no. And one of them was writing another book. Uncommon Leadership is actually my 7th book, Brian, yet I hadn't come out with a book since 2014. So here I was all these years because I was so busy on the road and coaching. I kept saying no to a book. And finally, I looked at the opportunity and I said, hey, I want to honor 11 people who have had a significant impact on my life, how I show up, and I just want to share their stories. So this is not, some autobiography of me. I picked 11 amazing people who are leaders in this world that have done extraordinary things, uncommon things. And I wanted to highlight their stories to give individuals the opportunity to meet them, to learn their lessons, so that their lessons could not only impact me, it could impact listeners. And people have loved the book. The feedback has been great, which I appreciate. But it's always fun to limit your self-talk, which I had to do. Okay, Ben, stop saying no. You're going to write the book. Yeah. And then we took the action to do it. And it's really been a blessing that people have enjoyed the experience of the book. And I'm glad we were able to honor these people that have made such an impact on me.
Well, we're going to include the link. And what was cool is we did something similar. So we were on the same wavelength almost of, I said, I'm going to do a book as well. All these self-talk, telling me reasons I couldn't do it, why I hadn't done it. And we took 11 of our favorite podcast episodes and turned them into written format and said, wow, powerful stories. You're going to realize you're a lot more alike these people than you're not like them. They've overcome significant hardship, obstacle, whatever you want to say. And then they gave you a little bit of their blueprint for success. And so that's why I love your book, because ours were very much aligned. And I love how you share that. I've learned, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is I'm almost a product of the coaches, mentors, people in my life as I move forward, creating this next level, next version of Brian. Do you feel like coaches and mentors have that impact into we're this product that ends up out in the marketplace, who people meet and greet and all of this? It's because coaches and mentors and people have shaped us?
Well, I think as a coach, it's an opportunity to really become a catalyst for individuals to see their opportunity differently, right? So I hope by just that simple exercise of asking you questions, what's most important, how are you showing up, that becomes a catalyst for you to now approach every day differently. And so as a coach, I'm always looking, what question can I answer to engage why you are where you are right now, to your point of your question earlier, right? And to engage, to then show up differently. And so as a coach, I think it's a catalyst to try to bring out the best in others. So whether it's on an athletic field or whether it's in a boardroom or whatever they might be doing, that they start to believe and then take the action to perform at that next level.
I love it. And it's one where I look back to my sports days, and you've coached a lot of athletes. For the athletes out there, and I get this question a lot, I'm not sure the same audience probably reaches out to you too. And they're like, hey, Brian, look, I played college sports. I did all this. Now I'm in business. What are some things I can take from the field now into business? Are there any parallels you've seen where successful transitions of a lot of athletes that listen to this that move into business? What are some coaching tips there?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of give you a long-winded answer, but I think it'll be great for the individuals who are leading and developing others, and maybe that athlete that's also listening, that's looking to make their way over. So I always share, these are two fantastic questions, I believe, and I've seen it really work well in many different organizations, because our work in business goes from Microsoft to financial organizations. I mean, it's a wide gamut. And so two of my favorite questions, if you're looking for talent, you're looking to recruit. Number one, what have you been best at in your life? What have you been best at in your life? And then number two is, what's the most significant challenge or adversity that you've been through, right? So my mother passed away 11 years before my 8th birthday. And so my parents were divorced at 6 months old. I never knew them together, but the manner in which my mother showed up every day, even when she had 24-hour nursing care in our house, to come to the dinner table to ask me how my day was at school. Brian, there is a burn and a fire inside of me. That's the name of our podcast, the Burn Podcast, because I believe we all have this burn, but this burn is what ignites my why and my purpose, that then causes me to have this desire to be more consistent in my action. We need to find those people who understand, I've been through challenge, I've been through adversity. It gives me perspective that this no in business is nothing. When I was a financial advisor, you don't want to buy insurance from me? Fine, I'll go call somebody else. Yeah. Oh, I don't work in your budget, or you don't think my messaging is on point, or maybe you think I might be too intense for your people? Fine, I'll go find another opportunity. And I might even help you find the right speaker for yours. And so I think that's part of it. It gives us perspective to keep going. So I want people to go find people who understand challenge, adversity, and perspective, not the person who, when you ask that question, they say the ice cream fell off the cone in third grade at Baskin Robbins. If that's the person that you're interviewing, I suggest you go find another candidate, because the world is not sunshine and riding down rainbows on unicorns. We have to go through tough stuff to figure out how strong we can be. But the part of what have you been best at in your life, I want to hear from the young boy or girl who is an unbelievable piano player, so that I can say, why were you great at piano? Well, my mom and my dad got me this piano instructor, and how often did she show up to your house? 3 times a week for 2 hours. You played the piano 6 hours a week? Somebody who dedicated 6 hours a week to piano, come into my organization, you understand discipline. And so I think that that's a really important thing. And then with athletes, I always joke with them, or I'll joke with people in corporate America, but like with an athlete, I'll say, who was your strength coach in college? And they'll say it. And you can almost see like they get a little intense, because strength coaches, like they push you to be your best. Yeah. And you can kind of see the difference. I said, was your strength coach like pretty intense? Were they, did they put together great? Oh yeah, it was amazing, their workouts. Did you ever go into one of your workouts and the strength coach said, hey, Brian, I need 5 sets of 10 here on bench. And you said, you know what? I'll give you 3 really good sets of 6.
Never.
You would never do that. So why in our life do we choose to change the reps? Why do we choose to change what you know is going to work? And so I always tell the athlete, or I encourage people, hire former, military, hire former athletes, because they understand discipline. It's non-negotiable. If you tell me 20 POCs for phone calls every day, points of contact, text message, if that's what it takes to be successful, I'm going to do the 20. I'm not going to find a way to only have to do 13. Yeah. And so I've found that people who understand discipline, piano, weights, whatever it is, those are the people that we need to attack in terms of our recruiting, because that's what's going to give you the highest probability of growth. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's what I get excited about.
I love the way it went down this like memory lane, because I do remember our strength coaches, and playing soccer, we had both in the weight room, which wasn't as much on the weights, but I do remember some of the conditioning, and in Memphis when it was hot. And I thought about in the mornings when we'd get up and we'd run at 5 a.m. and there was a group of us that were training for all of that. And I love that, because today, we oftentimes overlook what we're doing today is building us for who we are. Some 20, 25 years later, I go, to your point, that's who some of us are, and we can create those habits to create the better version of ourselves. So you said something earlier I wanted to go back to, because I've found myself probably more in the last 6 months to a year challenging these former beliefs, like trust the process, for example. And I've gone back and challenged some things that we accepted as truths, but they're not really. Is there anything in the last, I think about the last 2 years even, or even the last 6 months for you, that you said, yeah, this was something that maybe I was taught or is a belief I had, but now like that's not true. This is a better way of thinking, or the right way.
Yeah, I love giving answers in real time. So there's something that happened this week for me that really highlights, I believe, this answer, and something that happened along the journey of this experience. And I don't say this to impress anybody. I say it to impress upon the point that I believe as a coach, we have to have discipline in our own lives. Otherwise, how can I hold somebody else accountable to discipline, right? So coaches and leaders, we have to ask ourselves, are we operating with great discipline? Are we operating with great consistency? Otherwise, I can't have a conversation with somebody about accountability, right? So it doesn't mean I don't have areas that I'm not working on. I've told you, third time I told you, I got 2 coaches. So we're constantly looking to improve. But one area, my health, my nutrition, my working out, because I think that's where we can show great discipline, non-negotiable. So 2 days ago, I crossed over 1,000 straight days of doing what I call my unrequired workout. And it's literally 1,000 days straight. And it's not like 10 push-ups. It's 10 exercises. It takes 45 minutes. It's excruciating. 250 straight air squats, 10 minutes of straight planking. Everything is unbroken, 250 straight jumping jacks. Very, very intense. And 10 exercises, 45 minutes every day for 1,000 days, in addition to my regular training. And so today was day 1,002, because I want to get that point there. I didn't stop at 1,000, right? You got to keep going. But along that journey, I decided, my friend Andy Frisella, I decided that I was going to do his 75 Hard program, not the 75 days, the entire Live Hard program. And so I'm not sharing this answer to say, look, I worked out for 1,000 days. It's what I did within the 1,000. So the writing of the book, COVID, all these things where I decided to push myself while other people were waiting on the sideline. And I had been making excuses, Brian, to do 75 Hard. I saw Andy do it. I saw his amazing results. I see all this momentum. Like, these stories are amazing. And I kept telling myself, well, I do my unrequired workout every day. What do I need to do that for? I'm already pushing myself. I'm already challenging myself.
Yeah.
And finally I said, why am I making excuses? Why would I not go find my next level through his program? And I'll tell you, it was an amazing experience. So 365, of those days, right? I was involved in doing his program. And it's just amazing how it takes a year and everything's orchestrated throughout that whole year. But it's amazing what I learned about myself. I ended up creating what I call a never do it again list. So there's 14 things that I still read every single morning to make sure I don't go back to the old mindset. Because your old mindset will come back. And sometimes you may trickle and take some action steps, but you catch yourself easier when you have these reminders, I'm not going back there.
Yes.
And so, Brian, that would be the answer, is that, 75 Hard was something where I had the self-talk, and finally I said, no more self-talk. Just like with the book, no more self-talk. Yeah. And so I think for so many of us, we're held back by our self-talk, and our environments aren't set up for us to be successful. So I'd say limit your self-talk, make sure your environment is set up for you to be successful, and then, as we talked about earlier, go attack the process one day at a time.
I mean, and that's like the perfect way just to put a bow on this. And as you're listening to it, I could jam with you forever, man. And that's what I knew bringing you on is you're a guy that takes action and you talk about it and you're on this journey that you can see your growth. And I saw that 1,000 days and I knew you hadn't stopped. And like, you're just not wired that way. It's one of those, like, Ben's not stopping there. Like, that's going to keep, but that is for everybody listening. You all have a spot of where you are, and we talked about it today. And then you also have this vision or these dreams. You go, man, this is the man or woman that I want to become, and I know we're both dads. I think about that as like my 3 kids are watching everything I do right now. And that is some of that extra motivation to show up, whatever your motivation is on it. And take what we talked about today. And Ben, you gave people not only some really good tactics in their business. I really like those points of contact, because that's something, the way you framed it, it's a different language than we've all heard of. Hey, make X amount of calls, do this. No, I like that. And how you also then took Brad's piece and layered that onto it. And so for anybody listening, I would hope that you take away this is we're all, the Bens, the Brians, all of us, we are all on this journey of constantly improving. And I love how you took one thing you're doing, you layered it with something else someone else was doing, and you made it even better. And I think that's just to be commended. Dude, thank you for spending time with us. It's been a gift. I love these conversations. Is there anything we didn't cover or any final words that you want to add in that we didn't get a chance to include in there?
Well, first off, I appreciate your words. I appreciate you paying attention to the conversation that diligently. And I would leave everybody with this. It's the greatest life lesson I've ever learned, and it came from my mom before she passed 11 days before my 8th birthday. And that's really when she took the pen that she was writing with in her journal and passed it on for me to have the opportunity to continue to write her story. And I carry that burn with me every day. So I would encourage you to carry that burn inside of you, to ignite your why and your purpose, to go change how you show up. But the greatest life lesson I ever learned, it came from my mom. It's not how long you live, it's how you choose to live your life. So I appreciate our time together and look forward to staying connected with so many of the listeners and with you. And thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been a blast. So guys, we will put the links in there. I know you're going to want to connect up with Ben. Probably will see that already in some of the lives since we did it that way. We'll make sure you have the link to find him and to follow along in his journey. As I know, like myself, I have been inspired to take action and to become the best version of myself. And that's what this is all about. So thank you guys, Ben. It's been an honor. And guys, make sure you go on, like, subscribe, do all the cool stuff. Leave us some comments. That helps make sure that we're reaching the audience. and that impact that's really been something placed in my heart, that I want to make a bigger impact beyond just the day-to-day and in our organization here at Loan Depot, but I want to make a bigger impact in the world and also leave that legacy we talked about for each of us. So get out there, do something great today, commit to a better future, and we will catch you on the next episode. See you guys.